What's going on? It's Ed here from ClicksGeek, and today we're talking COCA, cost of customer acquisition. So what I'm going to do is roll through a conversation I just had with a prospective client. I'm not going to go into his particular niche, but we're just going to go through a conversation we had about figuring out how much it cost him to acquire a business. Actually, let me back up. Figuring out what it cost him to do the business, and then backing into what an acceptable customer acquisition cost would be. So here's what it looked like. We went through the average value of the customer. We went through some of his costs associated with that. So his sales rep, their base and their commission. Obviously the full base is not per transaction, but if you look at it on like a monthly basis and do the math that way, let's say there's 30 deals a month, you can easily attribute some of their base to that, and then the commission. Then you can look at any other servicing costs associated with doing it. And then you've got maybe software costs. You can look at it gross profit, or you can look at it. You can add in other expenses as well. But this is just a basic way of doing it. What we did then is, okay, we've got our customer transaction size. So let's say it's $1,000. Is there any repeat purchases? Do they repeat once a year, once a month? Is it a one-off purchase? Figure out what that number is, because then you get a bigger picture on how much that customer is really worth to you. Because if you do it off 1,000, but the reality is they do 1,000 a year for the next 5 years, that customer is really worth 5,000 to you, not just 1,000. So you want to factor that in, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Next, you want to look at referability. Depending on what type of business you're in, and this is specific to the client I spoke to, and I don't want to go into any specifics about it, but each new customer he got opened up an opportunity to get an additional customer at likely every third or fourth customer. So each new third or fourth customer he brought on, it referred in another customer. So it creates this waterfall effect in the business. And you've got to factor that in as well when working through these numbers, because you could go towards something called the loss leader. You could spend a bit more to acquire business because you know that 30% of them are going to produce more customers for you as well. So just something to think about. So once we have those numbers, what we can then do is figure out how much we're willing to spend to acquire that business. Let's say, in our case, as an example, let's say we're charging $1,000 a month. And let's say it costs us, I'm throwing out random numbers right now. This is not it. I'm just throwing out numbers for ease of explanation here. Let's say our gross profit's 50%. I'm willing to spend, let's say, $500 to acquire new business. So then I start looking at my advertising channels and my marketing channels to figure out where I could profitably acquire new business for $500. Is that direct mail? Is that cold calling? Is that pay-per-click? Is that through additional SEO efforts? Is that videos? Whatever it is, that's how you have to look at this. You have to figure out how much you're willing to spend to buy the customer, and then figure out marketing channels that can fit into that math for you. Another way to look at this is, I just threw out $500. You know, if a customer is worth $1,000 to us, gross profit of $500, and they stay with us a year, the customer is really worth $12,000 with a $6,000 gross profit. So realistically, I could spend $3,000 to acquire that customer and net my $3K. That's something else to think about. Another thing to think about is does each customer, do you have systems set up in place that each customer refers an additional customer over, or every second customer, every third customer, every fourth customer refers an additional customer? So if you look at it that way, you can get creative with it. And the reason we were going through this exercise was because in this particular client's instance, I wanted to make sure the business case made sense to run pay-per-click for him, because the pay-per-click was pretty expensive. So what we did was we ran through all of his numbers, and then he threw in an X factor, and he said that each new client that we bring on opens up an opportunity to bring on additional clients, but that each new additional client brings open an opportunity to spiderweb and bring in 30, 40, 50, 100 new clients. So that really enhanced the business case of why pay-per-click would make sense for them. He's going to run through some numbers and get me some details back just to confirm that, but so far it looks promising. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is you want to figure out what your COCA is, or your cost of acquiring, or your cost of customer acquisition. Once you know that, it's a super powerful KPI to have in your business. It allows you to do so many different things in terms of marketing that you may have thought were too cost prohibitive, or it may, on the other side, tell you to cut down on certain efforts because it's not bringing in profitable business for you and crushing your margin. All right, so just stuff to think about. So just wanted to do a quick video today talking about this. I had a really cool conversation with the guy, and I thought it was worth sharing with you guys. Cost of customer acquisition. If you don't know it, look it up, study it, learn it, and if you are in the agency world or in the marketing space and you're dealing with clients, use this consultative approach to work into whether or not Google Ads or SEO or whatever it is you're offering is a good acquisition channel for them, because maybe it's not. So you want to use their numbers and work backwards to figure out if it makes sense for them. My name's Ed, one of the co-founders here at ClicksGeek. We are a lead gen company that specializes. Let me back up. We're a Google Ads premier partner agency that specializes in lead generation. So if you need help with your Google Ads efforts, you got a campaign that's stuck, or it's something that you'd like to explore, give us a shout. That's what we specialize in. I'll drop an application link below. Then I'll drop a link to some courses that we have as well. If you guys need anything, drop a comment below. That's it for today. Have a great day. Bye.